welcome, welcome. I thought what we would do today, just for a little bit here, it shouldn't take too long, I'm sure. We would go over the Danny August Mason interview conducted by Ben Swan. All right, let me pull that up here. All right, just get that ready. Okay. So I figured that's what we would do here today, just for the next hour, more than likely. That's it. And But before we get there, I do want to say thank you and give a special mention here to my good friend Steven Sanzeri. Sent me his book, Ultimate Prey, the true story behind the Yosemite sightseer murders. This is a great book. You can notice this one is very new, has never really been touched. My copy with notes and everything has been touched, has been used and cited and everything. So this guy, love this guy here. Thank you, Stephen. I appreciate that. He sent me a copy of his book. It's autographed, by the way. This is an autographed book, in case I didn't make that clear. But this is definitely, and I love reading books, but this is definitely one of my favorite books that I've ever read here. And who knows, maybe I'll read it an eighth time. And I still have so many questions, still so much that I feel like Stephen and I have not really gone over. I know he and Crip Rick have gone over a lot of things during their shows, but I still feel like there's a lot that I want to cover. Okay, so that should be good. So anyways, just wanted to say thank you for that. Appreciate that. Secret Squirrel. This is a magnet, by the way. Hey Rick, how are you, man? This is a magnet, by the way, and then got a business card here and even a little handy flyer. So that all came with it. So pretty cool. If you're in the San Francisco, Los Angeles, or San Diego area, look up Secret Squirrel. This is kind of a list. I don't know how well that's going to show up there, but that's kind of a list of what they get, of what you get for it. So, and check out their website. You will not be disappointed. Rick, 6:30 p.m. So because I'm West Coast time, so yes, Rick, sorry, missed your thing you put here. Yeah, so if all things go well, I will be on Crip Rick show later tonight. Today is June 11th, 2022. And so in about 3 hours or so. So about 3 hours or so, I should be on Crip Rick's radio show, Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. If you don't know, well, I'm going to show you before we get into the fun stuff here. That'll be fun. We'll just be talking about music, nothing related to the Crowley. Okay, yeah, talking music. Yes, we will be talking music, just music only. Okay. Do a show on David Crowley's music. I'm just kidding. We're obviously going to talk about Phil Collins and how great Phil Collins is, and how both Crip Rick and I, growing up, it's very strange because he grew up as a Phil Collins fan, and I did too. So it's really cool. That's what we're going to be talking about tonight. So let me screen share this. Crip Rick is probably screaming into the camera right now. Let me go here. So for all of you that don't know, now you know. Let's see. Everybody can see this? Oh, good. Yes, so this is where we will be here. If you go to freedomslips.com, it'll take you to Revolution Radio. The archives are all there. If you want to catch any of the past shows, you can just go to enter the archives. Remember the username, and the password, RevRocks. Enter that into the archives. I probably already have it saved. You can find all of their archives. So here I have both of Rick's shows. Rick, can you remind me what time? I feel like sometimes I get the shows wrong. So I know it's 7 p.m. your time. It's the Saturday show is 4 p.m., but the Monday show I believe is 3 p.m. Please help me if I got that right. And Rick also does a cool YouTube show as well. Well, several cool YouTube stuff, but he does a live YouTube show today too, Saturday. So he's all over the place. But if you go here to CryptRicks, I've been thinking, this will show you all of the archives. You can download all of the past shows, including the very first one, which he had, which was an awesome guest. I'm not going to tell you who the guest was, but it was pretty awesome. That's all I'm going to say. Then he also has CryptRicks, the Decompression Hour. This is the Saturday show here. I believe at 4 p.m. Pacific time. We are on specific time, obviously. You can catch his live or his radio shows. They go live here, and so these are the archives. I'll show you how, if you want to watch him live or listen to him live, you definitely can. So I think Sophia's was the one that was on 6/4. Yes, yep, it must have been 6/4. June 4th, 2022. That's the most recent one. That's a great one. I have it up on my on the podcast, I believe. Hope I put it on the right podcast show. But so I got that one up there. But the Decompression Hour, that's all it is. It's 1 hour, mostly music, entertainment, things to decompress from all of the things that Rick thinks about throughout the whole day, throughout the whole week, right? So obviously, all of these shows are going to mention Phil Collins, no doubt about it. All right, so to make sure everybody can see what I'm even doing. Looks like you can't. Okay, there we go. Monday, 6 p.m., 8 p.m. Eastern time. Okay, yeah. So the Monday show is 3 p.m. Pacific or specific time. Okay. So that's what I wanted to show. But if you want to listen live, you can always go here. So you can go into the archives. You'll find all of his past shows there. But you can just scroll down right here, click on Studio A for his Monday night show, and then he's in Studio B on the Saturday show. So come on in and join us later on. Step up here, and they have a chat room and all that good stuff. It's really cool. I feel like it's a really fun show. So check that out. We'll be in Studio B tonight. And of course, they have the schedule and all that stuff. But the archives, if you just want to download some of the past shows, they're all right there. Pretty cool. I think it's pretty cool. So now we're going to get to the nitty-gritty. I'm sure you all can see this. So this is the Ben Swann interview. He interviews Danny August Mason on January 23rd, 2015. So that's what we're going to go over here today. And this video was hard to find. It's hard to find. Thankfully, I had it elsewhere. But just doing a internet search for any of this, anything related to this video, I thought was hard to find. Oh, that was pretty interesting. Why is it so hard to find? Shouldn't be this hard. Yes, that is what they said. Okay, so just make sure everything is working properly. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about here. But before we get there, do one more screen share. Got to show you this. This kind of sets the scene, sets the mood, whatever you want to say. And if anybody does want to jump in here and join me, let me know. Send me a chat, private chat, comment in the chat. And, I will send you the link to join here. So, because what we're going to do, we're going to go into this one right here. We're going to look at this. Hope y'all can see this. Wait for it to come on screen. What we're looking at here, this is a guy named Zach Carter. If you don't know who Zach Carter is, he was a friend of David Crowley. He's on the phone records. Mike Boggio, I believe, when Mike Boggio, during Dan Hannah's interview with Mike Boggio, the president of Michael Entertainment Group, which is the company that was working with David to make to make Gray State into a TV series. First, it was going to be some type of a feature-length film, and then they decided it would work well as a TV series, since there were the Sons of Anarchy show was just ending, so they thought that it would be a good kind of fill-in. Now that that show is gone, there will be this void left that people will be looking for something. So it kind of tells you what they were thinking. Sons of Anarchy, I've never seen it, so I don't know. It seems raunchy to me. It seems very dirty to me. I'm just not into that stuff. But it seems like it was going to be kind of in those lines, or at least they were trying to take that time slot. So obviously, when they pitched it, if they were to pitch it, if they would have ever gotten to the point where they could have pitched it to FX, I think A&E is kind of involved in some of this too. I think they were pitching it to them, but whatever it was, to fill that time slot, obviously that gives me a little indication of kind of where they wanted to go. In all of David's writings and everything, I haven't seen any treatment for this TV series. So once David Crowley decides to make Gray State, and once MEG, Michael Entertainment Group, decides to make Gray State into a TV series, and they want David's supposed to go write this treatment. It's not in the journals. He doesn't really talk about it much. I don't know if I think he mentioned, he does have a Facebook post where he does mention it would be better as a TV series. So at that point, there is mention of it, but where is this treatment? There should be a treatment or something on this TV series when David is turning this into a TV series. And we just don't see that, right? We don't really see that. So that's pretty interesting. But what we do see is there was a go beat between that was helping David and helping David kind of with the Michael Entertainment Group and all that. So they had a mutual friend. I believe Zach Carter was this mutual friend that they're talking about. We'll go into that later. But this is what Zach Carter put on the Ron Paul forum. It was a forum, old school forums. He put this, and it's still up there. We can go and this is on the ronpaulforums.com, and it's still up there. I backed it up in case all of a sudden it gets taken down. But on January 23rd, 2015, so just days after the bodies are found, the Gray State Goons are in this cover-up mode. They're in this thing where they're just like, they don't want anybody even thinking elsewhere. It was David, that's it. They're trying to cover up any other questions, trying to get you to shy away from any other areas, from looking at any other possibilities. The same people that would try to rip you if you would think that, well, maybe there was some other issues, right? Maybe there was something else that happened here. Maybe it wasn't David who did this. And they would just completely get frustrated and get angry. Sometimes I feel like get violent, get condescending, whatever you want to call it. Very narcissistic people in some of these cases, making it about them. Well, this is going to hurt them. If we start questioning it, even though a lot of David's projects and a lot of this stuff is built on that. A lot of these guys who are part of these quote unquote truth media and all that stuff, it's built on that. It was built on asking questions that the official theory, the official stories did not even bother to think about. And here they're pretty much, it's the pot calling the kettle black, I guess. It's a very hypocritical thing that a lot of these guys were doing at that time. And it raised so many questions, because it's like, why don't you guys just let the facts just speak for themselves? Why are you so desperate to try to get people to think a certain way? To try to make sure that people do not look in a certain way, do not look at a certain possibility in certain areas. It's very interesting, very suspect. I found it very, very suspect. Some of these actions done by some of these Gray State goons that contacted me, and then later wanted to play this victim, like we're going after them and attacking them. And they're the ones who are contacting us and trying to steer the narrative to what the police say and not question anything. Not That's the main thing. If you look at these guys when David was there, listen to them talk. Listen to what they're talking about. And then David Crowley dies, their friend dies, and they're all silent, and they completely do a 180 flip, flopping like a fish here, a fish out of water. Maybe that's what they are. Maybe they're scared of something. But that just shows their true colors. When push comes to shove, they're not willing to stand up for their friend. They're not willing to stand up for the truth, to stand up for whatever happened, to at least respect people's right to ask questions. They just want to play games. They just want to try to trick people. When they've been spending years telling us they're all about truth and anti-government, government is doing this, blah blah blah, and then here we have something very simple, a slam dunk case in their backyard, and what do? They run like cowards. They stay silent because it may hurt them. It may affect them. It's not about getting to the truth for them. It's about their credibility. And that's why they had to go after mine so much. It didn't work. It's not going to work because I'm not credible. My credibility means nothing to me, as we all know. And just whatever, here's the evidence, here's the facts, here are the documents, here are the journals, here's everything that we've been given, that we know that the public has been given. Here it all is. And there's nothing there that is going to prove David Crowley guilty. That's why the focus has never been on that. And even with these Gray State goons in the very start, I always say, guys, give me something. We have the evidence that David Crowley did it. We can't share it with you right now. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? It's just sad that it seems some people did fall for that line of crap. But fool me once, right? Don't try to fool me twice. So if anybody does want to jump in and join in here, I'll be live for maybe. Well, we're going to play. I haven't even gotten to the video yet. I'm still rambling on about this, but we are live here today. And as people know, it's so random. So let's talk about this post. Okay, so remember, this is 123. The Gray State team is in, quote unquote, what I believe to be damage control, covering up any possibility that it was anybody else but David after the fact. Right? Here's what Zach Carter posts. Ben Swann interview with the Gray State actor Danny August Mason to be released on Monday. Ben has just wrapped up an interview with Danny August Mason, an actor in Gray State and David Crowley's creative partner on the film. The interview will be released Monday at benswann.com. Have you tried to go to benswann.com? Try to go there, see what happens. Ben's Truth in Media Project. Ben's Truth in Media Project team, Zach Carter continues, and the Gray State team have been allies over the past couple years and share a crossover member on both teams. We're all devastated. This is Zach Carter saying this. We're all devastated at the loss of a great friend, an amazingly creative young man who had a sunlight, bright future in front of him and his beautiful family. Our thoughts and prayers are with them. This is a brief article released at Ben's site. Ben Swann, Deaths of Gray State Investigation. I could not find this link is all these links are broken basically. Any links that is mentioned in these two posts they're all broken. But I would be interested to see if we have that backed up somewhere. Ben Swann's original article, way back, obviously before January 23rd, 2015. Zach Carter continues, we stayed away from much in the way of detail because we wanted to talk to Danny and have his blessing, along with the blessing from David's brother and parents before releasing anything new on the tragedy. So this is interesting here. This is the thing right here. Who is we? Who are you talking about here? We stayed away from much? Who? I know who he's talking about, and I'm sure you know who he's talking about. We stayed away. We wanted to talk with Danny and have his blessing. What the fuck do you need his blessing for? This is not about blessings. This is about finding out what happened. Not playing games, not hiding. It's like these people have never really dealt with real circumstances, with real issues. It was all fun and games, ha ha ha. It was all anti-government, this and that, protests, all this stuff. Watching all of these films, keyboard warriors, but when things got real, then we saw their true colors here, right? Because if this was a case that that they didn't know the people, they weren't friends with, anything like that, you think they would have reacted like this? I don't. It's interesting. That's what happens. In times of trial and in times where things get tough and the going gets rough, this is when you see the true colors of people. This is what I saw back in January of 2015. I saw a lot of true colors come out in people. A lot of people. A lot of people that David surrounded himself with. A lot of scared people. It just seems like they really have never dealt with any major trauma or anything like this in their life, even though they've probably been researching conspiracies and following protests and riots and have looked into other suicide cases. They know, the court system is bad, the whole commercial code thing, all of that stuff here. But when it's right there in front of your face, why would you not treat this case the exact same way? Even more so because you knew this guy. So this should be treated with more skepticism than John F. Kennedy, than 9/11, then the two-party system, and that's why we want to vote for Ron Paul. All of these things, all of these conspiracies, the government going to war when they didn't need to, all of this stuff. And they don't, the way that they treat all of those cases, they don't treat it the same for David Crowley. Does that make sense to you? It doesn't make sense to me. All right, so if you have ever, there is a video out there where Danny August Mason is dressed up as John Wenck, which is the main character in the 2012 trailer and in the early version of the 2013 script. Danny August Mason's character in the Gray State trailer, just think of that. And there's that same character who is doing this 2-minute video, kind of like a promo for Ben Swann. So when they're talking about they have a mutual friend and everything like that, I mean, it gets, well, I'm not going to jump too far ahead, but it gets kind of weird here. So anyways, we're devastated at the loss of a great friend. And so it's not like, it's worded, this part here to me is worded so interesting. It's just so textbook. It's like they want to make sure people know, hey, we're not saying there was foul play here. And then it gets even worse. A lot of these people just go silent and just don't talk, because that would hurt their credibility in some of these circles of people that are like, well, wait a minute, why aren't we looking into this, guys? We look into all this other stuff. We talk about all these other, the Boston bombing, that didn't happen the way that they tell us it was. All these other shootings, things like that, Waco, whatever. But this one is fine. There's nothing here. It's like they rolled it out to you on a red carpet, and you guys just dropped the ball, completely dropped the ball on this case of your alleged friend. So, but it's pretty interesting. He said we stayed away from much of this because we wanted to talk to Danny. What do you need to talk to Danny for? You need to get Danny's permission. Is Danny your daddy? Big Daddy Danny? What's going on here? And have his blessing. Is he a priest? Is he a pope? What do you need his blessing for? Is he the new Freemason third degree priest to the fourth extent? Well, I don't know. I don't understand it. And at the very end, and we also, and David's brother and parents. Before releasing, what do you have to release? What news do you have to release? The only news that they released at any point in time is, yep, what the police said is right. Big news. We got that from the media. What do you need to tell us what this news is? You want to create this thing where it's, well, all sides are saying the same thing. David did it. That's what they want. They want you to think all the rational people in the quote unquote truth circles and all of that stuff. They all know David did it too. Are you kidding me? But in the end, all you need is evidence. All you need is the facts. And this is why I knew that from day one, we would destroy these people. They would be utterly destroyed. Okay, and I say we would destroy, but really they destroyed themselves because they had a choice. They had a choice to actually look into this case or to tuck their tail between their legs, go dark, and go silent and never talk about it ever again, except when it fits your needs, when it suits you. Oh, such a tragedy, such a tragedy. The tragedy here is that you have these people who claim to be close with David, and they don't give a crap about him. If they did, they'd be right here with us saying, okay, there's something wrong here. The police come up with no evidence to prove David Crowley guilty, and we're just supposed to act like David Crowley is guilty. Really, guys? These guys know better. And then it's like, what were you guys in this for then? Right? You have a slam dunk case dropped off on your porch, and you ignore it, you run from it, you hide from it, you don't investigate it. Why would anybody take these guys seriously after that? I wouldn't. Now, here's the kicker. We ask that if anyone has any questions about what happened to David and his family, rather than speculating, that you point them to this interview that we're soon releasing. Okay? So, and he doesn't leave the link in the 23rd post. In the 27th post, it is there. But in this 23rd post, it's not there. But this is interesting. It's just all like it's scripted shit. We ask that if anybody has any questions, they are directing the question. If you have questions, hey, come to us. Come to us. That's it. Don't even say come. They don't even say come to the police. Hey, we also think what the police did is great. They don't say any of that. Come to them. Come to me, Hail Mary. Run with me. Quick seed. What do we have here now? Do you want to ride or die? La 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 la. Something like that. And so, but here's the interesting thing where they say rather than speculating, and that's all they do is speculate. That's all they do. The reason why we're not speculating when it comes to the main thing, we can speculate on different things, but there's no speculation when it comes to the fact that David is innocent, that there is no evidence to prove David Crowley did this. That is a fact. That's not speculation. In my view, from my view, right? People could think differently. Maybe they think it is speculation, whatever. To me, it's not. It's not speculation to say that David did not do this based on the evidence and the facts, right? And that's how I feel right now because from what I've been told, we've gotten all of the information, we've gotten all of the data that the public needs to come to a rational conclusion that David did this. We've looked at the data. We've gotten data that we obviously weren't supposed to even get either. That was given to other people, given to Tony Floyd. Who knows who else? I don't know. That's a whole nother issue. So it's just interesting when they say rather than speculating, when that is exactly what they're doing, is speculating on this whole thing, speculating that David did this. When they should be saying, what this should be is we're going to find out what the truth is. So maybe that's what they thought was going to happen from Danny August Mason's interview. Maybe they didn't really know David. But maybe they had too much faith, too much stock in these people that they did not know. Maybe this woke up a lot of people and they're like, I'm not hanging around that guy. What if I get accused of a double murder suicide? They're just gonna do a thoughts and prayers video and that's it. So each person is different. So the title of that article, Ben Swann interview with the Gray State actor Danny August Mason to be released on Monday. So this makes me think this was filmed on the 23rd, January 23rd, 2015, and then based on the next post from January 27th, this by Zach Carter, this makes me think this was released, obviously, on that day, January 27th, 2015. If we look up a calendar, it's probably going to be a Monday. So there you go. But again, the links in both of these two articles are pretty much gone. Title of Zach's post in the Ron Paul forums. Exclusive interview, Gray State co-creator speaks about David Crowley's sudden death. So I went to this link and it's gone. It's gone. Video does not exist anymore. They don't even stand by what they're doing. Why erase the video? And that's not on them. That's on Ben Swann. And maybe his channel got nuked for other reasons. I don't know. But I was just shocked that, wow, these guys, at least Zach and whoever he's talking, when he talks about when he says we ask, right? Whoever he's representing, this brand of they are pretty much, saying this is going to, if anyone has any questions, instead of speculating, that you point them to the interview that we're releasing soon. Again, we're releasing soon. I'm going to talk more about Mr. Carter, I'm sure, later. I mean, when I first learned of this guy, I didn't think there was that. I think I'm Facebook friends with him, or I was. I know I was at one point. I was Facebook friends with this guy. I know who this guy is. Posted some great stuff back in the day, before all this happened. And then I don't know what the heck happened here, but he is in the phone records, and there is that. So he was in communication with David towards the end of David's life. All right, let me put it like this. He did call him, I think. There were some phone exchanges. All right, so that's the exclusive interview. Okay, more can be found on benswann.com. Interview Gray State co-creator. Oh, co-creator. So Danny August Mason, who just a few days ago told the police that he was a just an actor, in the Ben Swann interview, which they filmed, obviously, on January 23rd, he's a co-creator. And here again, and we ask, this guy's doing damage control, and we ask that you please help Kamel's mother, Nyla Alam, who is currently suffering from cancer. This is another odd, weird thing in this whole thing. The alums had no idea about this GoFundMe thing, and this link does not work anymore. It was taken down. I think Dan Hinnon found there was about $8,000 that they raised. So that's a whole nother thing. Where did that money go? Where did the 8,000 go? Should have went back to whoever donated. That's what I would have done. But I don't know. I don't know how all that works there, or put it to a worthy cause or something. But no, it's just, who knows? Who knows what happened with that? So Nyla Alam is Kamel's mother. So he's posting this too, and there were a lot of people that got caught. Oh, but yeah, okay, we're posting this. This didn't seem strange to you, Zach, that there's a GoFundMe for Kamel's mother? and it's like what, $5 million, $6 million or something, some crazy amount, without even asking Kamel's family if they wanted to do this. Just it's just weird. It's weird, and not directing the money towards the alums. Very weird. So the alums had Danny. This is Dan Jr. Dan Jr. created this. So David's brother created this GoFundMe thing. I don't want people to think I'm talking about Danny August Mason, but still, it's still very, very strange, I think. I don't know. So, I mean, so he throws that in there. It's just like this guy really doesn't know. They're just feeding, somebody's just feeding him talking points, if that's what he's doing. Or maybe he got caught up in it and, really wanted to help them. And I don't know. It's just weird. The whole GoFundMe thing. Every time I hear about the GoFundMe thing, and I know Dan Hinnon got a lot of negative feedback way back then because he was allowing people to comment on it in the Justice for David Crowley and Family Facebook group. It's like, why shouldn't we comment on it? This is weird. Kamel's mother's hospital bills are $5 million, $6 million. Yeah, yeah. What what are you talking about? Iconic. Um, Iconic is saying. What are you saying here? Oh, okay. That Southern True Tree didn't happen. You gotta break that one down for me. But thanks for joining. I appreciate that. Also, Rick too. I know he's just waking up, so he's probably he's probably outside smoking a cigarette right now. $20. That's what he's doing. But yeah, thank you, Iconic. Feel free to add any comments or jump in here. We are actually live. Yay. 6/11/2022, people. 6/11/22. All right, let me not get too much off track because you know how I do. You know how I roll, unfortunately. All right, so that's pretty cool. I can expand that like that. I like that. I like that. Okay, so it just goes and we ask, okay. We also ask if anyone had, here it is again, just like the other one. If we ask if anyone has any, it's almost like he just took a template and just kind of tweaked it a little bit. If anyone has any questions. And here's what he says on January 27th, this post. We also ask if anyone has any questions to say about what happened to David and his family, rather than speculating that you point them to this interview. So it's the same thing. It's a copy paste. Point them to this. He just took out. He just went bump, took out that part right there that we're releasing soon, and that was it. So that's it. I mean, again, okay. So all right. So we're all going to stop speculating, right? We're all going to stop speculating. And thanks, Rick. I knew it. I knew it, Rick. I knew it. I knew what you were doing, my friend. Canada. If it's Canadian cigarettes, probably have something a little. Probably have some maple syrup in them. That's my guess. All right. Let's get into this. We're ready for the interview. So here's the interview. This was released 1/27/2015, right? Or 1/26 maybe. Anyone has any questions? Yeah, rather than spec. So that's a key word. Remember that. Remember that phrase when he says rather than speculating. Rather than speculating, he's going to give you. Danny August Mason's interview is just point them here. Point them to this interview. Point them to the interview, guys. That's all. Maple syrup. That's right. All right. So, all right. Well, you pointed us to the interview. Fair enough. Let's watch this interview. Let's see how far I can get. Because I'm already got 47 minutes here. I don't know. Okay. This is like a 30-minute interview, and like I said, I could not find it. Thankfully, I found it somewhere, but it was not easy to find. If you just put in Ben Swann, Danny August Mason, boom, it used to come right up. Not the case anymore. This is 37 minutes. All right. Well, we'll see see how far we can get. This is supposed to be an hour thing. I can already tell that's not going to happen. I'm going to give this a dislike here. I just put this up because I couldn't find it, and it needs to be out there. It's backed up offline, so we have it if anybody wants to just watch this. The Michael Boggio interview, the MEG Michael Entertainment interview that Dan Hannon did with Mike Boggio. I thought I had that by itself on this channel and on my other channels, and it's not there. So I'm going to add it. I'm going to make sure people have it. I'm going to add it to the podcast. If it's not in the podcast, I'm like, what the heck? Why have I not been adding this one too? So, anyways, enough of my ranting for now. We are going to let's look at the Ben Swann interview, 123:15.
Well, guys, I'm glad you're with me for this week's episode, and I got to tell you, it is a very heavy one. Very sad story to be talking about here. David Crowley is a name that many people don't necessarily know. He certainly wasn't a household name, but he was an absolutely inspirational person in the liberty movement. David is the creator, the writer, the director, the force behind a movie project called Gray State.
Since last night's declaration of martial law, soldiers are moving in security areas.
Gray State was without question a brilliant project. It was something that I personally had supported, and the folks at Gray State, quite candidly, had supported me in my Kickstarter efforts and my efforts to go as an independent journalist. So certainly, full disclosure here, there's a lot of connection between me and this crew. David Crowley was the guy who put all of Gray State together, and this past weekend, tragically and very sadly, David was found dead inside of his home along with his wife and his daughter. Police investigators originally on the scene ruled it a murder-suicide. Joining me now to talk about this is Danny Mason. Danny is an actor. He is part of the Gray State Project.
That's what I wanted to say. Sorry.
His wife and his daughter. Police investigators originally on the scene ruled it a murder-suicide.
That's what I wanted to talk about. Police investigators originally on the scene ruled it a murder-suicide. Okay, now we know Catherine has talked about within four hours, there's a police officer saying this is a suspected murder-suicide. At least within 24 hours. The first press release is within 24 hours, and these are called suspicious deaths, right? So that was the very first press release, but within 24 hours, the police are saying that this is a double murder suicide and the public is not in any danger. Within 24 hours, they don't have, let's think about that. So that's what you would want to know. Within 24 hours, the police that were on the scene, what could they have seen in those 24 hours that would lead them to think that David Crowley did this, that this was a double murder suicide? Let's look at what they did not have. They did not have the DNA results. They did not have the handwriting results, the ballistic results. They didn't have the actual autopsies. They didn't have David's their phone records, their financial records, any of that. They haven't gone through, his posts. They haven't found a suicide note. They haven't found anything like that within 24 hours. But within 24 hours, they're already saying David did this. So it all comes back to what could they have possibly found? And we know what they've missed. I just mentioned some of the things that they missed. The other two things that they missed was two very important bullets. They left the house on January 17th, the day the bodies were found. They left the house, let's even say January 18th, okay? They left the house early that morning without very two important bullets. They left the house with 4 spent rounds. 4 spent rounds. One, including the one that goes into the basement, and including a bullet fragment, which I don't believe is, that I don't know. We can, maybe that's a fragment of one of those spent rounds. Maybe it's a fragment of, maybe it's not a fragment of those spent rounds that they found. But they didn't find 57. Item 57 is the bullet that went in to the attic. Correct. You're right. They didn't find item 57 until 1 month later. And then there's item 53 that they found 2 days after the bodies were taken from this home. So those are all the things that they didn't find. So it's always about, what did you guys find? And according to Zach Carter, this is, if anyone has any questions, this is good. Let's direct them here. He doesn't even say, hey, Danny's going to answer all. Don't worry about it. We know what happened. It was sad. It's tragic. Thoughts and prayers. But here's why David is guilty. You get everything. You get the thoughts and prayers. It's tragic. You get the fake emotions, the rush to judgment, the speculation. You get all of that here, even though Zach is asking us not to speculate. That's all you get here. That's all you get. Iconic Meerkat says probably the jacket of the bullet. Yeah, so the bullet fragment, which I think is item 31, that bullet fragment that is found in the living room, maybe that's exactly what it is the jacket of the bullet. So would that be the jacket of the bullet that goes into the basement? I think it's in the same area too. So that one makes sense because it doesn't hit any bodies. It hits that hardwood floor. So could the hardwood floor have knocked out that jacket or whatever? I don't know. I really don't know. And because it's not shell casings either, which is what it kind of looks like. Item 31. Maybe it's, think, oh, it's a shell casing. If it's a shell casing, it's not, that would really, that would lead down a whole nother area. So let me not get too far off on that, but you're totally right. It's like, I don't know. We just know these are all the things that they missed. So we all come back to, okay, what did you guys have in those 24 hours? Because if you're going to make that speculation, if you're going to speculate that David is guilty within 24 hours, all right, then what? Then you spend months and months to try to find the evidence of your speculation, of your theory, of your, quote, double murder suicide. So what do you find in those months? And we know what they find to prove David guilty. It's nothing. It's all about nothing. Seinfeld, George Costanza. It's about nothing. Let's go on.
Joining me now to talk about this is Danny Mason. Danny is an actor. He is part of the Gray State Project. He is also a creative partner in the project and a friend of David Crowley. And Danny, I'm glad that you're here with us. Talk about this is Danny Mason. Danny is an actor. He is part of the Gray State Project.
He's an actor. It's the first thing he says. He's an actor. He's part of the Gray State Project. And Dan, okay, yeah.
He's also a creative partner in the project and a
creative partner. A creative partner. I think he saw himself as an owner, a co-creator, right? I mean, if you look at the YouTube link, and when the video first came out, this was a creator, a co-creator,
and a friend of David Crowley. And Danny,
and a friend. So somebody left a comment. They watched the video yesterday. Iconic. Somebody left a comment about the body language, and you can learn a lot from Danny August Mason's body language. I totally agree.
I'm glad that you're here with us. I know it's been incredibly difficult for you and for...
Here it is another. It's been incredibly difficult for you and this and that. Wait a minute. Forget all that. Who cares about him? Who cares about any of that? It's been incredibly difficult for anyone to prove David Crowley guilty. That's what has been incredibly difficult. On January 23rd, 2015, January 27th, 2015. They're making the media tours. I feel like people just aren't buying it. The media are just not buying it. And Iconic Meerkat says, seems he is pushing the Coco. Yeah, Coco this, right? Coco, beware. And beware you must. I don't know. I don't know what else to say on that. He's like,
The rest of the
I'll
folks
save that
associated
one.
with this project in what has to be a time when this news has been truly devastating. Catch us up.
Yeah, I don't think devastation really kind of describes.
Total devastation. Yeah, devastated. He looks devastated. Dude, he looks like he just woke up out of a haze. Gray haze.
The feeling that we have of what kind of transpired with David and his family.
The feeling that we have of what kind of transpired with David and his family. Again, dancing around words. You're going to see that a lot here. A lot of dancing and romancing. Not a lot of truth, not a lot of facts, not a lot of, hey, this is why, David left a note. He did it. He filmed it. He sent somebody a message saying, hey, man, I really messed up. I just killed my family. We get none of that. There's no indication for these guys to go out there and do a tour, a media tour, saying that David Crowley is guilty. They're always very clear to make sure that people understand that part of it. Very clear. It's very interesting. And again, this is early. This is very early on. What do they really have by January 23rd?
When we got the news on Sunday afternoon, we almost, me and a group of friends, I got the phone call from one of my dear friends, Adam, and we were just in.
He's talking about Adam Schambauer right there. So he got the call from Adam Schambauer. Adam Schambauer, I believe, is one of the last people to try to contact David Crowley too. And I think he contacted him after his death. If Sophia was here, I'm sure she'd pull up her records and set me straight on that. But she's done a lot of great research on the phone records, which I have not. And also William Rail, and I think Catherine too. And I know Dan Hinnon, and there were several others who have really dug into those phone records. And thank you all for that.
In shock and disbelief.
Because it makes it easy for me to go and like check it out, right? Because you give me the sources, you give me the page, you give me the day, you give me the number, you give me all that stuff. Or if I'm not lazy and I want to look into it for myself, I can.
About what actually transpired. It wasn't until probably yesterday.
What actually transpired?
When everything really kind of started sinking in.
So that would have been 122. At 122, everything is sinking in. On January 22nd, 2015, for this guy, everything is sinking in.
About what's really happened, because at that time it turned into.
So they know what really happened. By January 22nd, from what they're saying, they know what really happened. It's all good. Got it. Covered. Done. Magnifique.
To almost containing fires with how the media starts spinning David's image.
So it's not about spinning David's death. It's spinning David's image. When they should be focused on, well, why would they... It makes no sense. His image and his death. So it's okay to say David Crowley killed a 5-year-old child, killed his wife, and then shot himself, as any coward would do. That's okay. But don't spin his image. It makes absolutely no sense to me there. The contradiction just right there is very, very baffling. I don't get it.
On the press on it as being kind of a gun enthusiast, right-wing.
Gun enthusiast, right-wing. Also note, I just want to let everybody know, note, for people who have not seen this, obviously when this first came out, this was a big topic, but if you have not seen this video, count the times, how many times Danny August Mason uses the phrase "on it." All right. I'm not saying do a drinking game while you're sitting at home and not driving and just sitting there, and every time he says "on it," take a little sip. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying count the times that he says "on it" during this.
Fanatic conspiracy theorists.
So a fanatic, conspiracy theorist, blah blah blah. They're more focused on that. They're more focused on the image of David Crowley, because the image of David Crowley affects them so much. It affects everything that they do, that they will do, all of their future plans. So you would think these guys would be front and center. These would be the first guys who would be out there saying, "Hey, before we jump the gun and just say David did this, let's wait. Let's wait for the autopsies to come back. Let's wait for the toxicology to come back. Let's wait for the DNA results to come back, for his electronics to come back, for his financial records to come back, for his phone records to come back." You would think that these guys would be the first people out there saying, "Let's wait for that." And they're not. They're not waiting for that. Why do you think that is?
A vet who had PTSD that flew off the handles and murdered his wife and his daughter, and then
He even has a hard time really saying the official. I mean, this is not somebody who is confident, who really, in my opinion, I don't believe Danny August Mason really believes the official theory. I think that's why he did reach out to me and Dan Hinnon on the Facebook group, Justice for David Crowley and Family Facebook, and challenged us to a debate. And then goes quiet, then goes dark, and that's it, right? He posted there. He was a part of the other group. I think he left or something. I don't know. I'm not really sure. Maybe I just can't see him. But it was just like after that, he was pretty much gone. And I haven't heard from him since. But he has the open invitation. He's one of the people that I will debate whenever. We'll set it up and whatever you want to do. Yeah. It's open invite, open mic. Oh, that's interesting. So yet he says he last spoke to David 2 months after than he actually did. Oh, 2 months earlier. Sorry. Okay. He last spoke to David 2 months earlier than he actually did. Is what you meant to say. I got it. Okay. It actually, interesting. All right. Well, you're gonna have to help me with that. Dates and times are not my thing, but that's why I calculate them. That's why I write them down, so I can keep record of them for reasons like this. That's an interesting one. You'll have to point me in the right direction for that. I love it when I tell people, point me in the right direction. They point me back to a video I've done. Oh, well, sorry. That's how it is, you know. We have so many great researchers out there, and it's just about getting
took his own life.
It's just about getting the data, making sure people have access to the data, and this has been a team effort, making sure that people understand that David Crowley is not guilty. There we go.
On it, and
he did mention the PTSD thing. I just want to point that out too, because he did PTSD and all that stuff. Almost like he doesn't really believe the PTSD angle either. That's going to be a big thing. But he's got a lot to say. He's got more to say on the PTSD. Let's continue.
How the media was spinning it and how we know David personally. We knew that this situation, there's so many layers to it that it's going to take time to kind of unravel it. Because David...
There's so many layers to it. It's going to take time to unravel it. So it's like a connecting the dots. They're trying to connect dots that aren't really there. When if David had done this, and if they really thought this, if there was slam dunk evidence to show David did this, I mean, what, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, within 7 days, within a week of the death, they're like, yeah. But they're still trying to piece it all together. Some friends here.
was one of those very unique individuals that me and a lot of friends had the fortune of being able to be a part of his life. He was a private guy, but he was also very open. He was one of those incredibly smart individuals that when he would process or have these ideas that they would be coming through him almost like 1,000 miles an hour, and you would have to keep up, but he would get really frustrated because he would have to end up like dumbing himself down to really explain what he's trying to get across on it.
So I guess we could on it. Did you hear that on it? So I guess we could interpret this as David's smarter than everybody. Right. Well, that would make sense to me because these people that think David Crowley is guilty, they're dumb if they really think that. I mean, it's okay to whatever you want to believe if you think it, but if you're going to act like there is real proof out there that David did this, you are dumb. You just are. That's my view on it. You know, and people can say, "Well, you're dumb because you think David didn't do this." I'm like, "Well, let's compare the evidence." That's why I was able to make a 2-minute video, a 3-minute video, put it on the back of my book that breaks it all down. It's not long and complicated. When if you really want to get down to it, it's not very long or very complicated. I could break it down to you in 2 or 3 minutes. And I have several times, as you all know. So this is a 37-minute video, and we're kind of hoping for that, right? This is what we're expecting, is he's going to tell us, don't worry about the speculation, but you know, this is what happened. So let's continue on with Danny August Mason speculating and Zach Carter supporting the speculation.
I say that in the context because a lot of people like that are insanely self-motivated, and especially artistically, and it's a really kind of hard level to balance when you're dealing with a regular society in general, and especially in the magnitude that with the success of just a simple concept trailer of Gray State and topics, because they're such intense debated topics that a lot of people from activists to conspiracy theorists kind of latch onto, and they use it very much of a visual form for a spearhead for their ideology with it. So with that being said, with David around...
He almost said on it, but instead he said with it. Sorry.
His family, he was such a softie, and
So around his family, he's a softie, and then he brutally murders them all, shoots his wife twice. Got it. As Eric Wilkinson would say. Go ahead.
And when I say that, I mean when he was around his family, he was so loving. And he was so caring, and
he was so loving around his family, he was so caring around his family, and then he kills them all. Makes sense. Right?
So in love with his wife, and he loved his kid.
He was so in love with her, so in love with both of them that he's going to shoot him in the head to make sure they die instantly. Very loving. That's the most loving thing, I think, right?
And being a part of that, and whenever I would be over there, me and my other friends, Adam and Mason and Sean, we were...
He and Adam and Mason and Sean. Mason Hendricks, Adam Schambauer, Mason Hendricks, Sean Wright. That's who he's talking about here. Even though he and Sean Wright and Mason Hendricks are going to have a big falling out later on, when I'm chatting with Mason Hendricks, maybe about a year or so later than this, and Mason Hendricks is, saying if Danny Mason keeps it up, Mason Hendricks will deliver Danny Mason's head on a platter to me. To me. That's what Mason Hendricks said to me. Mr. Mason Hendricks, who doesn't like to be quoted, by the way.
We knew that we were fortunate enough to actually see that. So
now, Danny, let me ask this, because I know that David obviously served in Iraq. He was an Iraq War veteran. Immediately, of course, media turns to the idea that this is an episode of PTSD, and that becomes kind of the blame for all of this. To the best.
This is good stuff. I'll try to shut my mouth during this part, because this is the PTSD stuff. So whenever you hear about David had PTSD, he might have had PTSD. Remember, there are real people out there that have PTSD. A lot of people who have it may not say anything, and maybe a lot of people who have it are very vocal about it. But ask those people, ask a person who has it or who believes that they have it. What is it like when people are accusing other people of having it? How do they respond to that? How do they like that? Do you think that that's cool? For me, if I were to just say, hey, this person has PTSD when I've never had it and I've never gone through what that person had, I would ask a person who has had PTSD or has it, how would you react? How would you respond to somebody like that, to somebody who is so quick to accuse somebody else of having PTSD? Or even, it just seems like, I guess what I'm really trying to say is there are people out there who really have PTSD, and we should not just label PTSD because we want to label them like that, to think that they're crazy, or to think that, well, this is to justify their actions or to justify anything. So I'm never, ever quick to say people have PTSD or that they don't. Okay. If they say it, if they joke about it, like David did in his journal, then that's on them, right? But I'm not going to say, well, I'm not going to associate that with what they did or what they didn't do. But I will tell you this, most PTSD cases that I've looked into myself, maybe there's others that are different, but they usually kill themselves. They don't really necessarily kill everybody. And a lot of the stuff, to me, I would ask somebody with PTSD, does this line up? Does this murder, what they say, happen here? Look at the crime scenes. Look at what happened. Look at all this stuff. Look at the crime photos, I guess. Does it line up with PTSD? That's what I would basically ask and see. And if it doesn't, then, have to go with that. Yeah, here comes the PTSD excuse. All right, let's continue.
Best of your knowledge, and I know it's difficult to speculate on this, but to the best of your knowledge, had David exhibited any symptoms or signs of PTSD in the years that you've known him?
Nothing that would, I guess, constructively fit the bill for diagnosis of PTSD. Not in the form of David, and that could have been masked with his creativity on it. Hindsight's always 20/20, and especially in a moment like this. And I think to label that right away that this was the sole cause of it, I don't personally. I know that I'm.
Just want to pause. This is the sole cause of it. He's not discounting the possibility of PTSD. He's just saying it's not the sole cause, is what it sounds like.
He mentioned that he did suffer from some forms of PTSD, and I think that all of us in some shape or form could actually, I guess in some form of diagnosis, have that, obviously more extent than others, but nothing to the extent that immediately, this is, it's black and white. He flipped out and kind of lost his mind. It's just
that's kind of the problem right there, because what he says right there is exactly what they will say later. That's what the police will say, is that David Crowley flipped out and did this and killed him. That's what he's going to say later on. Very interesting.
That diagnosis to explain the tragic events just doesn't fit with it. There's much more stuff that I guess we can only assume leading up to it, to the tragic event. And like I said, that's going to take time because we're getting little bits here, little bits there from other people that he communicated with. That's beginning to kind of allow us to get the bigger picture of what actually transpired.
When you say little bits, are you able to tell me what some of those little bits are?
Yeah, little bits are kind of more communication with David's family on it, and how he was communicating with his family on it, with things going on to it. Because David, when he would go into a very creative mode, he would kind of, I guess, go off the radar for a couple of weeks, and this is very kind of normal for him. And then he would just reemerge with these ideas, this new plan, new direction where you want to take things, or he might even have a completely different idea for a project. He just needed to get out of his head. And so for him to do that, his family was used to that. And me as being a creative partner with him and also a friend and a business associate, that was, familiar with it. It wasn't anything. There wasn't really any kind of red flags that kind of went off that we should be really concerned about. It was just the more lapse of time that was going by when we're hearing from him, that's when me as a collective friend started getting a little bit more concerned. Something wasn't feeling right with us. And we started reaching out to each other, and it was at a point where we were going to go over to his place kind of unannounced just to check in on him and whatnot. But like I said, hindsight, you can't really predict this sort of thing would have transpired like it did.
So Danny, you'll have to forgive my ignorance on this. My
Yeah.
understanding, and I could be a little bit off here, but my understanding is that when people suffer from PTSD, especially veterans when they come back, typically when symptoms of PTSD come up, they seem to cycle somewhat, and there are typically triggers associated with that. Just wondering if anyone had noticed anything that would indicate there was a PTSD trigger that was going off. I know that David was in a pretty exciting place in terms of the Gray State Project, and I don't know how much you can speak to that. I know we're being sensitive to that, but what can you say about that, where he was in this place and where the project was?
I'm only gonna be able to comment a little bit on things we're getting really excited for him, for the amount of, because I guess he's taken the burden as being such a creative guy. He's also I don't want to say controlling, but his vision is so cut that he likes to have his hands in everything just to make sure he gets it done. So it's his structure is very militant on it. And this could have possibly been years of building up on it. I know one of the biggest things that he had to grapple with, and we discussed many of times kind of when we were creating the universe of Gray State, and like the major themes that we were playing with, was that we had a huge responsibility to present it in a manner that it wouldn't become a tool for some radical person to use it for justification on a tragedy or some point of violence with it. And that weighed heavy on his conscience. I know that, and it does with mine still to this day, and it will continue what will transpire with Gray State. And I know he dabbled with that, and he always never felt comfortable or felt good about the formation of the story that he was trying to tell. It was never good enough. There's always a lot of holes with it. But I know that he felt like he needed to carry the world and that burden on his shoulders, because people, when he went to like a Bilderberg rally, and also.
Hey, Jet, thanks for joining us here. To answer your question, when was this interview originally done? This was most likely done on January 23rd, 2015. The bodies were found on January 17th, 2015. So about 1 week after. Hope that helps. That was my first question, too. When I found this the other day, it's like, when was this first conducted?
Also the RNC, he became a symbol for hope and inspiration for a lot of people, and that can weigh a lot of pressure on an individual who's not used to being thrust into a public eye right away, or into that kind of statute. So I know that was a lot of things going through his head, and he would wrestle with those themes a lot. But I know he had the ability to channel that fear and those insecurities into his characters of Gray State, with the direction of the script that he felt the most comfortable with on that. And I support him with it, because the characters that we came up with were a lot of the original ones, but he was going more daring with the subtext and the themes with it, which I supported. I thought it was great. That's why I was so passionate working with him, because he just did not want to make
just another film.
Yeah, just another film, but also like the themes in general, that kind of what we're dealing with. There's not a lot of filmmakers at that time. I mean, when we were coming up with the concept, and you have to understand, this was years before Occupy, or even a year before Occupy Wall Street. This was years even before Ferguson situation and what's going on with that whole entire thing, and just where the state of the country's at right now. And that's why people looked at David as the kind of like almost prophet figure on that point. And that's a lot of
that he had foresight into a lot of this.
Yeah, I mean, we would sit, and what the thing that forged our friendship and our bond was that I'm a lover of history, and ancient history, and also American history. And I told him, and him being a combat vet, and I'm not a combat vet, we would have discussions about what would actually take place if there would be a second Civil War, a second American Revolution. What would it take place with advances of technology, and also, but on the higher powers, the controlling factors with that, and how would that take place on, with that direction? And that really forged in the beginning process of what the Gray State is. And even then, back then, this is like 4 or 5 years ago, we knew we're playing with something we fully didn't understand. We fully didn't understand when we were shooting it. We fully didn't understand even like a year or two after the release of the trailer. We kind of really got a big glimpse when we went to Boston after it was 3 days after the Boston bombing. We were working with Oath Keepers and shooting some footage for the.
This is key here, the Boston bombing thing. Some interesting things. Obviously, we know David was there filming, etc., etc. David's uncle was a police officer. John Bergeron, I think was his name. But he was a police officer, and I forget what state, but it was David's uncle, and he actually got shot in the line of duty. He died. He got murdered in the line of duty. And the witness, the witness who saw the person that shot this police officer was a jogger, an older gentleman, one of the joggers, and this is I do believe in coincidences, people, and this is one of those. He was the witness to David's uncle's death, murder, a police officer being murdered in the line of duty. The witness was a runner. He was a runner at the Boston bombing. Now, there's also questions about the Boston bombing, who really did it. I have a chapter completely done for one of my future books, Shadows and Light. Kripperick has the only copy of the old version, which was called New World Order. And I kind of try to break down the whole Boston bombing thing as we knew it back then, the things that were happening, the strange things that were happening, some of the suspicious deaths surrounding that case too, and everything. So I'm sure these guys were on top of all that stuff. But then they're not looking into their own friend, so they're out there, they spend all this time covering the Boston bombing, they leave their state, their home state, to go and cover this Boston bombing, but when it comes to the death of their friend, how much effort, how much time do they put into this? I don't believe it's very, very much. And if it is, then that's very shameful, because we've been able to look at these documents, to look at these facts and say, the police have not proven David Crowley did any of this. Danny August Mason should see that. Mason Hendricks should see that. Sean Wright, all these guys should see that too. It's right there, right in front of all of our faces.
Gray State, The Rise documentary, where it really hit home what we were actually playing with and how much people invested and looked for it as a representation of their belief system on, like I said, in a medium form. And that's a lot of weight. And then you compound that stress of what David was trying to spearhead, taking this idea that's never been done and presenting it in a Hollywood fashion on top of that, and dealing with a lot of people who would, like to get their hands on it and influence it and also take it somewhere. Or David's worst fear was just going to that process, maybe potentially shooting the film, and then it just being in a nice little package sitting on a shelf, and that's it. And then he would let down, the hordes of fans to put us in the position that where David's at. And I've been lucky and fortunate enough to been a part of that.
Let me ask you about the investigation here. And again, I don't know how much you can say about it. We mentioned before that the initial reports here was that it was a murder-suicide. I have reports that some investigators may be calling this.
This is interesting, because now we're getting into the investigation, You can look. So now we're gonna get into it, right? About halfway through, yeah, we're gonna start talking about start talking about the real deal here. So this is pretty interesting. I just want to note here one thing I wanted to mention earlier that I forgot. Look at where Ben Swann is. So if you've ever seen a Ben Swann interview or what Ben Swann does, this just seems very different. He's out in the weeds here. He's literally in the weeds. He's not seeing the forest before the trees, but it's just interesting. He's on this hillside here and conducting this interview. I don't know. I always found that interesting. Okay, let's go on.
Suspicious at this point. That may just be, people hoping that it's suspicious, but I'm hearing that it may be suspicious. And I also have heard that there is reports of a sliding door that was.
I want to go back just a little bit, the suspicious thing, because that's what the first press release said. The first press release on this case, and I don't know if I can bring that up or not quickly, but said that they label this as quote unquote suspicious deaths. So I don't know if I don't have those 5 press releases in just one PDF to make it easy for people. Okay, I don't have it. I'm gonna definitely add that. I'm gonna add that to my list because people need to see that, to see the 5 press releases. Okay, so I'm not gonna spend too much time on it just because I don't have it in front of me. But I'm noting it. Here we go.
And I also have heard that there is reports of a sliding door that was left unlocked. I don't know how much you can say about the investigation. I know you're following it.
Look at that. Danny August Mason's face when the sliding door is mentioned. This was a key thing. There was a guy in the group, early in the group, Pascal, I think. I forget his name, but I did credit him in the video that I made that took his audio that he found on the police scanner. So he found the scanner footage, the scanner audio. That was the very first episode the very first video that I did on this called Gray Stage, the Gray Stage series. The very first video is just that 5-minute recording, and it is literally the police going into the house, going up to the house, going into the house, etc., etc. What they do, right? So Ken was able to find this video. I don't know how he found it. He posted it in the group. I made sure to back it up because it mentioned the rear slider. The rear slider here was probably another thing that they were hoping would not be focused on, would not be mentioned. So when you look at Danny August Mason's face, and Ben Swann is bringing it up, the rear slider, because it is a big part of this case. If they're going to say there was no forced entry or anything like that, why is the rear slider open here? It doesn't mean that there was anything, but it's like you can't have it both ways. You can't say that, well, we didn't find any signs of forced entry, and then at the same time recognize or focus on the rear slider was open. So there wouldn't need to be any forced entry, right? It's just very, very interesting. I'm gonna go back a little bit.
And I also have heard that there is reports of a sliding door that was left unlocked. I don't know how much you can say about the investigation. I know you're following it closely. What can you tell us about that?
The only thing
This is the thing. I don't know how much you can say about the investigation. Are they part of the investigation? Are the police telling them not to say things about the investigation? Obviously, Ben Swann doesn't know. He's just asking, what can you guys say? I can tell you that they were telling us that David did this, and then they were also telling us that they couldn't talk about what proves that he did it. And here we are 7 years later, and these idiots still cannot prove David did anything. They still have not provided any evidence that shows David Crowley killed his wife, his daughter, and himself. What evidence could they show you? If the police don't have the evidence, do you think these other ass clowns do? They're lying. They're lying. They don't have the evidence. They know they don't have the evidence. They know they're not under oath or anything like that, and they can say whatever they want because some losers will take them seriously for whatever reasons. But whatever you want to think is true, and that's fine. But make sure it's based on facts, not feelings.
I can confirm on right now is obviously the investigation's ongoing. I haven't seen the reports
The
about
investigate. I mean, this is what the police were telling us, and he's saying the same time. The investigation is ongoing. That's what Sean Wright was basically saying. He couldn't tell us things. He's not even supposed to know any things. Why is Sean Wright, what is he communicating with the police? How often is Sean Wright communicating with the police? And if Sean Wright is communicating with the police, why is there no police report the same way that you see with Danny August Mason? You see Sean Wright's name mentioned in those 94 pages, but that's really it. But yet these are the guys that are going out there and telling us that David did this. They have the evidence. They don't have the evidence. Some of these guys told us there was a hand in the basement. There's no hand in the basement. I mean, some of the things that they told us, I don't know why they would tell us these things. It did not seem like something that a sincere person would do, but they did it. It's interesting. Just go I think we're gonna have to break this one up into two pieces. We'll go a few more minutes here.
About it being suspicious on it. Until we get the full amounts, the full actual report from the police and what they've come to it, I haven't really, and from what we're getting from, like I said, from communication with the family and from some other individuals I'm not going to name, who are kind of coming forth with their own story, I'm just going to probably just stick to it as what the examiner said, as it being a
Murder-suicide.
Suicide at this point.
That's interesting because the medical examiner doesn't really say that, right? How is a medical examiner going to prove any of it? I don't know. It's really interesting. So he's just going to go with that. Just going to go with what they say. Nice friend, right? That's the type of friend you need in your life. Yeah, Jet, it is very interesting. And unfortunately, I have to shut this down. But on my channel, Jet, if you want to watch just the whole interview of just Danny August Mason, I do have that up there. And I'll come back maybe tomorrow around the same time and probably do a part 2 to this. But God bless you all. And I just want to thank you all for for joining here. And I will definitely be back either maybe tonight, but most likely tomorrow around the same time. All right, everyone. Talk to you soon. All right, and welcome back. We are now going to go through part 2. We did not finish part 1 of looking at Danny August Mason's interview from January 23rd, 2015. This may be the first and the last interview Danny August Mason did, and there's probably some good reasons. So if you've seen the first part, we covered about 15 minutes. Catherine is joining us here as well. Hey, Catherine. Hey, always good to see you. And we'll spend as much time as we have here with the time that we have here. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to do a screen share, and we're just going to continue on. Catherine, if at any time you want me to pause or stop, I know I specifically, since you said you were going to come on, I specifically put it on this part to make sure I didn't get this wrong with the medical examiner. So I'll play what Danny August Mason says, and then we will go from there. So I'm transitioning. Hopefully everybody can see the wonderful Danny August Mason here, as long as you do on camera. Then what I will do is I will maximize this. This is about 15:23 here. So I want to get your thoughts on this, Catherine. Here we go. I want to say hi to Ellie. Hey, Ellie, thank you for joining us in the chat. Always nice to have you here. Nice to see you. And Ellie, if you do want to jump on, let me know. You're always welcome to jump on. So here we go.
Haven't really, and from what we're getting from, like I said, from communication with the family and from some other individuals I'm not going to name, who are kind of coming forth with their own story, I'm just going to probably just stick to it as what the examiner said, as it being a
Murder-suicide.
Suicide at this point right now.
Danny, let
So that's what I wanted to just pause it there for a second, Catherine,
Okay.
and go back to, because if you notice what he's saying, he's just going to stick to what the medical examiner says. At this point, what has the medical examiner really said? Okay, we're January 23rd. We know, I don't remember when exactly the final report came out, but does the medical examiner say that this was the result of a double murder suicide?
And I was just going to go try to pull it up real quick and see when those reports were done. I don't know if they found it out that quickly because they would have to wait for the toxicology reports. But what I find interesting is he's like, oh, well, some stories that some people are making up, that type of thing. Well, everybody kind of has their own thoughts. So really? And then he's like, well, then I'll stick with what the medical examiner has to say. Well, let me see if you even know if I'm pulling it up right now to see when they were signed.
To see what the medical examiner, what the day. I think there's several dates, but I don't believe it was by January 23rd.
No, they signed them on, Jessica signed hers on February 23rd, and then Dr. Maury signed his portion on March 22nd. So this probably didn't even become available or, to anyone until after that date, because they have to wait for the toxicology reports before they can even come up with anything.
Would they have been given maybe the family and friends a little heads up about, hey, this is what we found? We think the medical examiner saying, I think this is a double murder suicide. I don't see anything where the medical examiner disputes it, but does the medical examiner ever come out and say this is?
Well, I think they put on David's. I think they did list it as suicide on his cause of death.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that they listed it as suicide. Because they're saying that on David's autopsy, they're saying that he shot his wife and his daughter and then shot himself. And I'm like, how do you know that? You weren't there. And it's like, oh, but whether or not, could the medical examiner have been saying something to the family? Yeah, but I don't think 5 days after the bodies were found.
Yeah, it's pretty quick.
Yeah.
When all these guys are out there doing this, what we call the this tour, this world tour, where they're going out and pretty much saying that David did this. We need to not question it. And you can even see Danny August Mason kind of hints towards some of that. I'm not going to listen to what other people are saying who have their own thoughts and their own views on it. It's like, well, I thought we all had our own thoughts and views on it, but I would have really thought these guys would be the first people out there saying, look, there may be something weird. It's just very odd that they are the first people out here saying this is what happened. David Crowley is guilty. That's what they're basically saying. Within 24 hours, within a couple of days, they're out there not only saying it to other people, they're trying to convince everyone else of the same thing, and then getting pretty angry when people question them on it.
And that is such a huge red flag. Everyone jumped on the bandwagon without any proof whatsoever. And by that point, no one had read the autopsy report. Nobody really saw what the ME did or did not do. And the fact that the skull piece, the ME didn't even mention that skull piece. And it is clear as day there, we've been over this a bazillion times, that there are straight lines and you see imprint marks. She doesn't even talk about that. The only thing she says is that it articulates well with the remaining portion of his skull. But they don't even know that at this point. And then to, like you said, constantly push the narrative. Oh yeah, he did this. And they're saying this, and other people might have other ideas, but I'm going to stick with what they're saying, when you've never even read the reports. And then, like you said, get angry, downright angry and violent at anybody who says, no, wait a second, we want to question this. So now I'm going, why are you angry? Because people are standing up for your friend. Shouldn't you be standing up for your friend? Shouldn't you be going, hey, wait a minute. Yeah, we kind of had some disagreements, but I knew him. I knew how he was with his wife. But no, instead they're like, well, we don't know why he did it, and we don't see how he could have done it. But okay, if they say that, then damn it, this is the way it's going to be. And
Right.
it's, oh, holy crap.
Well, I mean, the thing is, we get to see something directly from the Journal where, you know, you can see David is he's not a big fan of Danny August Mason.
Right.
And that's first and foremost here. And I'm pretty sure Danny August Mason, because it's pretty apparent they knew about the deal, at least to some extent, that they felt like they were cheated and they felt David was in the wrong for this. I mean, that's pretty clear. And it's kind of frustrating because it's, you know, that, like you were saying, they've thrown up all these red flags throughout this entire case, you know, especially since the beginning. But the thing is, the reason why they're throwing up these red flags so early is because they're really not David's friends.
How dare you say that?
Right?
Let's see.
Well, Judy was all of our friends too, right?
We were at one point. We were, yeah, social gatherers. Star here says, brings up a great point. When Danny is asked about the rear slider unlocked, Danny's reaction told us what we needed to know. It really did. And this was I remember, I wish I knew who it was, but this person contacted me. It was like, you have to listen, you have to watch this. You have to watch this. It is very, very strange. And that's why it was kind of like, for years, I wanted to make sure people had access to this and not really give too much of my commentary and thoughts on it. Because when I watched it, I mean, especially at that point, and it would be great to have a body language expert or something actually watch this video in real time and maybe get some really good thoughts on it. Because when Danny August Mason mentions that or when the slider gets brought up, and I don't know if that was supposed to be brought up, to be honest with you. I don't know if Danny August Mason knew what the questions he was going to be asked or not. But yeah, you can clearly see he's a bit frustrated when that comment is brought up.
Did you show the part about the slider? Was that last week's?
Yeah, it's actually just a few minutes before. If you want me to go back, I don't know if you've seen it or not.
I
If you
haven't
want me to
seen
go
that part
back.
yet.
I haven't seen it in a while.
Okay, I could try to go back and we can go over that a little bit here. So let's see. It's probably still.
Yes, it was.
It was an oops moment. Whoops! I did it again. Brittany. It's Brittany Biage. Okay. Let's see. Let me go back. Yeah, it's like I could probably already find it here too. I forget if someone knows when it was.
Say about it. We mentioned before that the initial reports here was that it was a murder-suicide. I have reports that some investigators may be calling this suspicious at this point.
That's interesting
that
too.
may just be, you know, people hoping that it's suspicious. But I'm hearing that it may be suspicious, and I also have heard that there is reports of a sliding door that was left unlocked. I don't know how much you can say about the investigation. I know you're following it.
That's the face right there.
He's like,
That's
oh,
the
crap.
face right there. Yeah, this is what they did not want. This was so awesome when we first got. Really, when Dan first created the Justice for David Crowley and Family Facebook group, one of the very first posts, I think, was somebody posted the actual 911, not 911, but this is the police talking back and forth. And this is when the rear slider is actually mentioned, one of the only mentions of it, that rear slider. And so that became one of the biggest talking points, especially for people that were like, maybe there is something weird going on here. That rear slider was one of the main things, and you can clearly see why. But
Well, yeah, because if it comes out right away, like this soon, that the rear slider was opened and unlocked, right away, that should tell people that there's a possibility that there was someone else involved.
right.
Right, yeah, is who leaves their back door unlocked or open like that, especially in the winter. Doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Let's hear what his answer is about the rear slider.
Closely. What can you tell us about that?
The only thing I can confirm on right now is obviously the investigation's ongoing. I haven't seen the reports about it being suspicious on it. Until we get the full amounts, the full actual report from the police and what they've come to it, and I haven't really, and from what we're getting from, like I said, from communication with the family and from some other individuals I'm not going to name, who are kind of coming forth with their own story. I'm just gonna probably just stick to it as what the examiner said, as it being a
Murder-suicide.
suicide at this point right now.
Danny,
Oh, holy crap.
Oh my god.
Oh, holy crap.
What do you think?
Oh,
Well,
no.
I mean, look at the basics there. I mean, somebody usually their eyes are darting back and forth, left to right, and especially when there's a focus on one specific side.
Yeah.
He's trying to come up with a story on the spot, but usually when that's the case, especially lean towards a specific side, it usually means lying.
Well, and you know, that can be true, but that can also not be true. But when you put that together with his and on and I'm
Yep.
going to be here. And
So it's on it. On it is the
Yes.
key. On it.
Yeah. And where he goes from, okay, now, oh crap, what do I say? And, you know, oh my God. Okay. That's all I can say is holy crap. This
Hand on
is,
the mouth.
like William was saying, this right here, his body language, how he's saying it, how he's responding, there are red flags everywhere. So
Everywhere, yeah.
why did the police then not question him? And again, I'm not saying he's guilty, but I'm saying he is behaving in a way that is not consistent with someone who does not have knowledge.
Right.
Yeah. It would be good to go back and look at the date that the police did talk to him, how far out it was. I think they probably talked to him first, and then he did this, and then
But
he
the
went.
little bit that they talked to him, that's not an interrogation. They should have brought in interrogation kind of sounds rude or like really intense, and sometimes they are, but other times you have to interrogate someone to rule them out as well. They only went and talked to him and chatted with them a little bit, and this is where he's like, they start passing the cops off onto each other. I think Danny says, did you talk to Mitch? And then, you know, and then oh, did you talk to Chris? And oh, Chris, like, oh, did you talk to so-and-so? So they're constantly sending them in this huge loop, and never really were they brought in and questioned.
Yeah. I mean, especially after Danny Mason says he was just a quote unquote actor. That's it. And even this Ben Swan, when this first came out, the URL lists Danny August Mason as a co-creator.
Right.
That's in the actual URL, which is taken down now. You can't find this anywhere else, maybe. So I don't know, but it's pretty interesting. I don't know what happened with Ben Swan. His whole website, I don't know. I haven't really looked too much into that, but it's pretty interesting stuff.
Well, what's more is you can always you can take a look at this guy on YouTube, Enigma. That's all he really does is body language. There was another one that used to be on YouTube as well, but she's not up anymore. But she was really good too. I don't remember her name off the top of my head, but Enigma might be one to go and worthwhile, you know, getting in on this.
Interesting. Yeah. How do we do that? Maybe you can help us send it over them.
Yeah, I mean, they're just on YouTube, so you could probably hit them up through there. I think they accept the business inquiries. Right?
Oh, business inquiries. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, like Elle was just saying, it's a cluster of deception. So it's not just one thing, because if one person, if they're being interviewed or talked to, and yes, they can look up, because oftentimes when you recall, you'll look to the right or to the left, and it's just recalling memory. But it's everything. It's the fidgety. It's the
right.
And this and this and then the too much information. Giving too much detail, then wait a second, in detail that really doesn't matter. You know, like, who cares what other people are saying? The question is what about the rear slider? He talks about everything but the rear slider.
Right.
So there are a lot of things in there that are red flags.
Right.
Yeah. If I could ask Ben Swan anything, it would be like, did you let him know you're going to talk about the rear slider? Because that is one of the most
Didn't seem like
deer in
it.
the headlights moments I've ever seen. And it's pretty interesting because I don't think Danny August Mason does any interview, face or video interviews after this. Maybe he did. I haven't seen any. I think they were like, he was going to be out there front and center and trying to convince people. And if this actor can't do it, then who could possibly do it? So for me, it kind of opened up that door, like, wow, this guy is an actor. He's stuttering more than I stutter on my worst days. And he shouldn't have to, because all he has to do is tell the truth. Now, it's understandable that there are things that he can't talk about or anything like that. Then don't even do this. Don't be out there. Don't try to do a damage control video, a propaganda piece, and then all that you're doing is raising more questions. I mean, I can't tell you how many people contacted me or watched what we just saw there and like, dude, there's definitely something here. Like if I didn't think there was some quote unquote suspicious activity after watching this, people are just like, what is he doing? What is going on here? Because these guys seem to be, or they try to be so articulate with other issues with Boston bombing and things like that. They have no issues with that, right? It's okay to talk about the whole Boston bombing people. We're not going to worry about their family or their friends or anything like that. We're not going to respect people in these other cases. But when it comes to this case, then all of a sudden they all change. And now all of a sudden we're supposed to be respectful. All of a sudden now we're supposed to wait until the police finish their investigation, which we always planned on doing. But these are not guys that waited for these investigations to be finished. These were guys that were telling us all that what they do is they go out there and pretty much see the other side of it. That's what the Gray State was. That's what the Gray State trailer, that's what a lot of things they were working on. That's what it was all doing. It was showing us the other side. And here they are selling out.
And they had no problem telling everybody from the get-go that, yes, David did this. Oh, and we're so sad. We can't believe that he killed his wife and his child and then he killed himself. But the moment you and Dan come forward and say, hey, wait a second, we're gonna question this. Oh, no, you guys, you don't have a right to say anything. You don't know anything. You don't have the police reports.
Right.
Well, why is it okay to slam David, but it's not okay to say, hey, wait a minute, let's kind of question this narrative for a second, because we don't have that information. We don't have that proof that he's guilty. But yet that was never okay. It's never been okay to say David is innocent. But the moment you say that he's a murderer, everybody on that side is your best friend.
Right.
Absolutely. Well, I just saw a comment go by with, I think it was Star, says something about he should have been on a lie detector. Personally, I'm not a big fan of lie detectors. Those things can be fooled. People can look like they're lying when they're not actually lying. I mean, they're not even really, from what I understood, they're not even admissible in court. They're not something that's going to be, that's something that can be heavily scrutinized real quick. So. Oh,
I knew somebody who had to have consistently have to go in for a test, a lie detector test. And they fooled it every single time by putting a rock in their shoe. Because if you do that, what it does is it makes your nerves react a certain way. And I'm not quite sure how it exactly works, but they knew with the test lie question, or a test truth question, that they would do that. So then it would register. They fooled it every time, lied to the police and fooled it every time.
Right.
Fooled the test, but maybe not the people who were conducting the test.
They believed it too because they're reading the test. They're reading how the thing. So they fooled everybody. They lied their butts off the entire time. Was doing exactly what they weren't supposed to be doing, but because they were able to put that little thing in their shoe, and again, I'm not sure exactly how it works, but they put a rock in their shoe, and they lied and got through and passed it, even though they were breaking their probation the entire time.
Sure, but it's still possible to pass it, and still, you can still, as an investigator who's just watching it or rewatching it later, you can use that. You can use it to even trip people up later on too. There's some value to it, I would think. But
I don't know. I'm with.
I don't know. I've never taken one myself, but I that's pretty much what I growing up. What I heard is all the different ways to beat them, to fake it.
There are lots of ways to beat them, and there are people out there who are so good at lying that you just don't know. You have to really catch them on something else and go, wow, okay.
Yeah, but after watching what we just saw with Danny August Mason,
he's not good.
I don't know how good he would be.
Like Dan is a liar, I'm sure of it. And I agree with you, Ellie.
Well, the one thing, like with those types of people, that they can lie that well. They can literally trick their body into basically acting in specific ways, so it's able to go right past the lie detector. They're able to go and keep, certain kind of tone, facial expression. They're able to basically fool them, almost like fooling their body into believing the lie, but knowing full well it's a lie. You can always do simple things like, if they're not really sure of something, but that if they knew as much as they did, you can always throw some stuff out there. And this could be things that are just totally like, for the most part, they would have been in the know for somebody. And if they're answering like, they know, they're like, oh, this didn't happen. This isn't what happened here. You can start catching them on there. Like, well, if you were there, then here you go. Well, that means you're lying right here. So you can kind of trick them.
Right. And I agree. Someone just said that and like Greg, you were saying too, Danny is just not that good of an actor. I don't think he could have passed it. However, William is so right. I know someone else who they were taking a lie detector test to get a government job. And I won't tell you what kind of government job, but one of the test questions was, to see how you react when you're telling a lie. And one of the test questions was, is the wall black? And it was a white wall. And they're like, yeah. And they're like, they totally passed it. They're looking at a white wall going, yeah, the wall's black. And they're just like, oh, crap. So they just stopped it. They're like, we can't use a lie detector test on you. So it just depends on who you are. But I agree, Danny probably would have failed it miserably.
Right. Well, he is a terrible actor, and that's what terrible actors do.
How dare you? How dare you defame the acting skills of a future Oscar, Emmy Award winner, Danny
God.
August Mason. I think I'm his only fan. I'm your biggest fan, Danny. All right, here we go.
This guy's a fan.
I don't know, man. It seems like there is I don't know if anyone has ever seen, it's like a 2-minute video. It may still be up on the Gray State channel. And they're basically just kissing Ben Swan's butt. It's basically that. It's like a 2-minute video with Danny August Mason. He's in character and just letting us know how great Ben Swan is. And I thought after this, it's like Ben Swan, a lot of weird things happened to Ben Swan after this, actually. But I don't know. Didn't really hear him say too much about David. I always felt like Ben Swan was more of an old school journalist. And I felt he just this proved to me like he's, bringing up certain things that he brings up. I don't like how it felt like he was kind of coaching Danny August, not coaching him, but kind of finishing his sentence as we just heard.
It's not compatible.
It's just like, well, Danny Mason was kind of stumbling through it. And as someone, obviously Ben Swan wants, he's got the show that he's doing here. So he wants to kind of keep that flow going. So that's what great hosts do too. So it could just be that. Right. All right, let's continue on.
Let me ask you about this, because there is a report that's out now from, I believe it's Canada Free Press. And an interviewer who had Danny on a show says that, and this was back in 2012, so it was a little while ago, but says he had Danny on the show and he was talking to him pre-interview. And in that pre-interview conversation, he jokingly said something about, Danny, I hope you don't have any thoughts of suicide. And he was joking about it in reference to Andrew Breitbart dying and Michael Hastings dying, and just saying off the cuff, I hope you're not killed over this project. And he says that David had responded to him and said that no, he had no feelings of suicide and he had no suicidal thoughts. And so they had talked about this prior to the interview. I'm just wondering if you've seen that report and if you can comment on that at all.
That I can't.
See, even there, he doesn't seem as agitated when the rear slider comes up, and though he should be, I think. Let me go.
Yeah, if you go back a little bit, you can see that his face. He's kind of looking around. He's kind of like shaking his head a little bit.
Who's he looking at here? I think there was somebody else here, and when I first watched this, it looked like there is somebody else here. He's not the only one here. Somebody else, and probably multiple people, maybe coaching him or helping him, et cetera, et cetera. Right. I've had the same feeling when I talked with some of these Gray State goons. I had the exact same feeling that I wasn't just talking with them. I was talking with several people.
Right.
This is how they roll.
Absolutely.
No, he had no feelings of suicide and he had no suicidal thoughts. And so they had talked about this
right there.
Eyes wide.
No feelings. No feelings. Like what? Wow. Oh, he doesn't really know.
Crap.
They thought they scrubbed all those, but apparently they missed one or two.
Prior to the interview, I'm just wondering if you've seen that report and if you can comment on that at all.
That I can't comment because I don't know, and I don't totally. I'm not familiar with the interview on it, so I won't be able to comment on.
That would be news to you. You weren't familiar with that conversation prior to.
I'm not. No.
Breaking. No, he knows about it.
It's funny because he even calls him out on it.
he can comment on David's death, and he can speculate on David's death and slander David and call him a killer, a child killer, a wife killer, and
Right.
and a coward, because one of the most cowardice things you can ever do is kill yourself. So he has no problem commenting on that,
Right.
but he's not going to comment on some of these basic facts that would contradict any notion that David would ever kill himself. Pretty
Well, it's
interesting.
funny, like I was saying, because Ben Swan literally corrects him.
He's like, what? How
He's
dare
like,
you
no,
correct
you have prior knowledge. What the hell are you talking about?
I would the only part of that conversation I would have been familiar with would have been on what would have taken place during the part of the interview. I know that knowing David, any point, I mean, of the suicide and the extreme of the tragedy doesn't, like I said, it doesn't for us. It still
No, he's
doesn't make
stumbling like
sense.
Biden.
Danny, I just want to ask you this. Did you guys ever have this conversation? And the reason I ask that is because, look, I've been asked this question many times before. A lot of people have asked me dozens and dozens of times, do you feel safe? Do you worry about being killed for what you're doing? They jokingly say, are you suicidal? When they don't say it making a joke out of suicide, they say it, in reference to Andrew Breitbart. They say it in reference to Michael Hastings. And they say, look, I hope that you are safe in what you're doing. And so they ask the question, you're not feeling suicidal, are you? I'm just wondering, did you guys ever have this conversation about him fearing for his life, feeling threatened? Is that a conversation about death that you guys ever?
If people don't know who Ben Swan is, I won't spend time on it, but please go and look up this guy. Look up some of the things that he's done, some of the confrontations, things like. There's a reason why people have asked him if he would ever commit suicide. It's a standard thing. It's almost become a normal thing where, and like I said before, many times it takes 3-4 seconds to just say, I will never commit suicide. Put it on record. If somebody does try to frame you for a suicide, then you'll have the evidence right there.
Oh, I might as well say it now since my Twitch channel was taken down, and I was saying it pretty regularly. Yeah, I'm not suicidal, nor am I homicidal, nor is my family homicidal or suicidal. So if anything happens, I mean, you know what to do.
Look into it.
Same thing.
Yeah,
look into it.
Well, and the thing that gets me is we know that David went on Alex Jones's show and stated he was not suicidal. And
right.
Was Danny with him during that interview? I can't remember.
Yeah, he was.
So then he does know. He knows exactly that David stated that. So why would he kill Ben Swan?
Did David state it during that interview, the Alex Jones interview?
I'm almost positive it was Alex Jones and it was broadcast. Right.
There was a Hagman news report that came out where Hagman, one of the Hagmans, but basically said that he said he talked with David offline about this, and David told him that he was not prone to suicides. Sean Wright has said the same thing. Sean Wright is on record also saying the same thing about David. I do have this
clip saved somewhere. I mean, because as soon as I saw that, I'm like, oh my goodness. But it was broadcast. I'm almost positive it was Alex Jones. And again, that
I'd love to get the quote. Maybe you can help me find that one.
I'll see if I can find that, because that's the first thing I'm like going, wait, he's telling people publicly less than a year before he's dead that he's not suicidal. And so then all of a sudden they're like going, okay, now not only is he suicidal, now he's homicidal.
Okay. Yeah, I'd love to hear that. I know, well, there's a couple of speeches and things like that he has done. So yeah, it would be good to calculate to add that, because I only have 2 on the record. So obviously there's a few that I'm missing here where David has said that, or where it's been commented that David said it, but to get it directly from him is obviously going to be.
It was from him.
Best way. Awesome.
Thank you guys for having me, though. I gotta get back to work myself. So
thank you, my friend. Thanks for joining.
Of course. All right. I'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.
All right. Let's keep going here.
Brad.
We've had that conversation early on it, and this is when, but then there was a period when David started putting distance between his friends and his family on it, and that I know that he was going through a personal transition, and I don't know if he was battling a lot of the bigger pictures. I
want to go back for a second there, where he was saying that David was distancing himself from his friends and from his family. because there's been a lot of speculation, a lot of stuff about that, which, you know, the more that I look at it, it's not as black and white as they want to make it sound.
Right.
Why do they just want to say, yeah, he was distancing himself from his friends and family? First of all, I don't believe that he was distancing himself from his family. All right, this family, if let's just look at David's side, not Kamel's side, because we know there's an issue with Kamel's side. Kamel had an issue with her own parents. They were not talking at any point. Kamel could have picked up a phone and talked with them. So I'm not buying anything that David was keeping her away from talking with them or anything like that. If she wanted to, she could have. Whatever the issue was, whatever the real things that were going on. And I'm just guessing here. Obviously, I wasn't there. I wasn't a part of this. But a lot of these guys weren't either. But they never bring up any of the stuff that we have read in David's journal that show why he was distancing himself from these quote unquote friends, because they were leeching off of him, because they wanted things from him, because they were looking to him to be this leader. They were looking to him, and he's a young father. He's a new homeowner. He's, you know, a husband. They've only been married. They haven't been married for that long when you really think about it. They're both young, and they're trying to get their life going, and they have this great opportunity for David to get his foot into a door that is almost almost impossible to get yourself into, to the actual Hollywood door. Many people have done it. Many people have done it and turned away from it. Many people have gotten close, and it didn't happen. And that's where David was. This was about to happen for him. This is going to be a life-changing thing for him, for his work, for everything. And he would be a credible person because he is a person that served this country. You know, that makes him very, very credible. I think it would have been a lot. And they were going after soldiers right around that time. They were going after many soldiers, especially if they were speaking out against the wars. They were really going after those soldiers. It didn't matter if they were current, former, et cetera, et cetera. I think the whole Vietnam thing, you know, the deep state, whatever you want to call them, these people, these evil people, really learned a lot from the whole Vietnam and how powerful a soldier who served his country or her country can come back and really explain to you what the war is like and how wrong it is for us to be in these other countries. You know, it doesn't have to be that, oh, all the soldiers are evil and they just want to run around and kill people and all that stuff. It's a very complicated thing. And for us, for people like me who have not served, who just, you know, look at this stuff and obviously can see, you know, the good side, can see the bad side and everything, it opens my eyes when I hear some of these stories directly from a soldier who was there, who was fighting in these wars that they did not agree with. And by the time they realized that we should not be here, what could they do? What could they really do? You know, but be court-martialed or something like that. So anyways, little off topic there, but I just feel like David would have been a very credible person. And
well, you know, and I think that's why I fight for David and his character and his name, you know, because at the time I was married and my husband was sent over to Desert Shield, Desert Storm. My brother Russell was over there during Desert Shield, Desert Storm. I mean, I know what it's like to be the wife of a soldier that's in the middle of a war, and it was hell. And what I kind of not only relate to David, but definitely to Kamel. And when her husband was over there, I get it. And I understand the shit that these men went through, not just over there, but when they had to come back. And it wasn't from the people. Thank God the American people really embraced our soldiers. And there was nothing greater than when our husbands are coming home and you've got people standing at the airport saying, thank you for your service. I mean, it was amazing. You know, Vietnam veterans didn't get that. However, it's what the military did to them, not only over there, but when they came home, and they're still doing to them today. And David had the guts and the courage to say, not only tell people what really was going on, but he stood up against it. And now his movie is incorporating some of, and not everything about our military is bad. I'm not saying that, because I love my country and I would fight and die for my country. But, you know, we're not perfect. We have some really screwed people that do things. But David was a real soldier. I mean, in every I don't know, definition of the word, every way you could look at it. He loved his country, he fought for his country, but he also loved his family, and he loved his wife, and he loved his child, and he wanted to show what he had learned. And because of that, then all of a sudden he became the enemy of the state, so to speak. And maybe, you know what I mean? In the eyes of a lot of people, he became the enemy of the state. And it took courage for him to do that. And to see people like Danny August Mason and Sean Wright and Mason Hendricks and, Chris Peck, all these other people, all of them, I can't name all of them, but, to take him and take his name and then without thought and without even a shred of remorse, call him what they've called him is disgusting.
I agree. And thanks, Star. I think I know which one. I think that's from the Ron Paul Fest or the Paul Fest, whatever. But yeah, I'll definitely go and find that. I do remember, I think I have that somewhere too. So we'll go and find that and add that to the list of times David says he'll never kill himself. There it is. All right, let's keep going on here. All right. Back to our buddy.
Questions on spiritualism and his placement within society and also as a filmmaker. So I don't know if that part, but the discussions that we had before, I know that he wouldn't be suicidal because David was one of the strongest guys I've ever.
There it is right there. I'll go back a few seconds there. It's very important. Listen to what he's saying here.
That part, but the discussions that we had before, I know that he wouldn't be suicidal.
Discussions that we had before, I know that he wouldn't be suicidal. Here we have another person who's saying David wouldn't be suicidal, while at the same time saying David was suicidal.
Yeah. And it's interesting, this choice of words. Our discussions at the time.
Oh,
suicidal.
Nice
so
catch.
it's like, yeah, you got to catch what he's saying. So then it's kind of like, well, yeah, he never said he would do that then, but it leads the person who's going to now go, well, then what about now? Maybe he's right. Yes, back to the deceiver. I agree, Star.
His breathing. Oh, I didn't catch his breathing.
Yeah, he does the catching his breath. Watch
his face reaction. Do you see his shoulder? No, what's the shoulders?
The shrugging. Yeah.
The shrugging. Interesting.
It's all deceptive. That's all deceptive behavior.
So strange. He means suicidal. I guess maybe it's a Freudian slip or something, but he said not suicide. That's all I know. All right.
Because David was one of the strongest.
I'll go back.
So I don't know if that part, but the discussions that we had before, I know that he wouldn't be suicidal because David was one of the strongest guys I've ever met before in my life, not only intellectually but just physically, all around. When you think of alpha males, he was like to the T of that. So that's why, and like I said, for me to say that it was a suicide and dual murder, it's hard enough to actually have those words come out of my mouth. Do I truly believe that? I mean, I'm going to look at the reports. I'm very analytical. I know David, but at the same time, I got to look at the bigger picture and all the facts and from the information that's coming in and what David was doing and kind of where he was emotionally at that time. Some of it is up to speculation because the contact with him became less and less in the course of a couple months ago, and that just wasn't me. It was his family and his friends on the same time. So like I said,
he was to some extent.
I just want to say he's talking about that the contact became less and less, right? So the contact, let me go back where we are. So the contact became less and less. He doesn't explain, doesn't give you any context or anything because he does not, because that would show, okay, well, maybe this distancing had nothing to do with